Evening, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Jonathan Trop. I'm pleased to welcome you to the January 8, 2026 meeting of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force. I call the meeting to order at 7:33 p.m. I would invite you all, please, to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge
to the
allegiance
flag
to the
of the
flag
United
of
States
the
of
United
America
States of America,
and to the
and
republic
to the
for which it
republic for
stands,
which it
one
stands,
nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and
with liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, for roll call, I will report that in addition to myself, we are joined by Vice Chair Shala Fleming, by David Rosenberg, Rick Bolton, Samantha Miller, and as well by our guest for the evening, Tom McCarthy, by Town Council Jim Cordone, by Bill Chin, our able technology expert, and of course by yourself. I'm sorry, and Jennifer Winchell, our town council liaison, not to be overlooked. Uh, in terms of correspondence, the only correspondence that I'm aware of since our last meeting didn't come to the edit email address, but because it was addressed to each of us and all of us, I think it's fair to regard it as a committee email. And it came from Michelle Jacob following hard on the heels of our meeting with her. And since you're all familiar with it, I won't read it. I will simply, for the record, briefly describe it. She was following up on our meeting. She thanked us for the opportunity and remarked on the conversation we had about data regarding school suspensions that she was interested to learn about. And she provided us with a little bit of information about how that information was relevant to services provided within her domain. And then she expressed some interest in our book club and in sharing information about that book club. Um, there having been no other correspondence, I will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comment. Bill, would you make appropriate inquiries?
Sir, if there are any members of the public who would like to make comment at this time, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen and press *9 if you're on the phone. Mr. Chairman, there are no members of the public making a comment at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I would invite a motion at this time to approve the minutes of December 11th, 2025, which have been previously circulated.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, according to those minutes, all who are here tonight who are eligible to vote were at that meeting and so are eligible to vote. All in favor? You can reflect that that's unanimous, Madam Clerk. And that takes us to the next item on our agenda. I'm very pleased to welcome Tom McCarthy to join us this evening. He's familiar to many, if not all of us, as the Director of Human Resources of the town of Trumbull. Been in that position for a while and has been of some assistance to us. Thank you, sir. We invited him this evening, as our committee knows, as part of our effort to talk to top executives throughout the town and learn a little bit more about what's on their plates, what's going on in their area of the world, what challenges, if any, they face, and how we can help them. Tom, I'll give you the floor and invite you to do that. But in your case in particular, I hope that you will touch on the anti-bias training that you were kind enough to coordinate with us. And I was delighted we were able to provide to the cabinet recently. We'd love to hear about it.
Sure. I'm just a little over it. So Tom McCarthy, I'm the HR director. But in previous lives that I've lived in my career, I've worked in specific areas. Usually I'm a labor relations attorney. I started in Bridgeport and was labor relations in Bridgeport. Then I was labor relations in the city of New Haven. And you touch on a lot of personnel. I oversaw HR and benefits when I was in Bridgeport, but not when I was in New Haven. here in Trumbull, because we're smaller, you do everything. So I'm in charge of labor relations, human resources, benefits, civil service. So I do all of the personnel function for the town. Now, when I say I, really, it's not me. I have a staff of three that are awesome. Three total with me. It's Steve, my number two, and Louisa, who is our HR generalist, are really incredibly good at what they do. Steve generally takes the civil service hiring and the benefit side, and Louisa does all the administrative functions for the town for personnel. So I'm very lucky to have good people working for me. So we do. I spend a lot of my time negotiating contracts. In fact, tomorrow morning I will be with the police. We're in the middle of negotiating a contract. We just closed the Public Works non-supervisors contract. That'll be on the agenda for the town council on Monday for a vote. I've already been in front of the committee. So that is a big portion of what I do, is the negotiating the contracts. And so every year there's another group of union contracts that's up. So we are in Trumbull a strict civil service system, meaning that unless you are exempted under civil service rules, which is rare, almost every single position in the town that is not a charter appointed position or a certified, we exempt the nurses and EMS because of their certifications. Everybody else is civil service. So that means there's a strict process. We have a civil service commission that I have to report to on a monthly basis, and they approve all hiring. They approve all lists that we generate. They approve our testing process and how we recruit and market for all of our processes. Bill Chin knows because Bill Chin actually runs those meetings too. Bill Chin does everything. And so as a strict civil service system, we spend a lot of time thinking about how we test and how we remain neutral in the process. And what our job is to be objective instead of subjective in our hiring process, to put people through a legitimate testing process and then provide a certified list to the department that they can choose from. That is the goal of civil service, and I actually think civil service works pretty well here in the town. We have, since Steve came in a little more than 2 years ago, we've actually improved the system. Steve also came from New Haven, where he did all the hiring, and so we've done a very good job of grabbing a hold of civil service and making it more efficient. Used to take a long time to get through the hiring process, and we've shortened that down. But there's positives and negatives to a civil service system. The positive is that it creates neutrality in the hiring process. The negative is it also removes our ability to influence the hiring process sometimes. So when it comes to diversity, which I know is a topic, and I actually talked in front of the edit committee before about this exact topic, and we talked about this thing, and I just wanted to bring it up again, is that we don't have the ability to control the diversity of our hiring through the civil service process. So what we do is we focus very strongly on the pool. We have the ability to influence the pool of candidates. And so we work very hard, particularly where we've been spending a lot of our efforts is in the police department. And we have done a lot of things to expand the pool and our reach in terms of our hiring and the pool. Once you get into the police process, then we kind of are taken away from the situation. But it's our goal to try to make sure we are reaching as many diverse populations as possible to give as many opportunities at the opening to as many people of various backgrounds so that we can get a very wide pool of people. So that's kind of something that since the last time I spoke to the edit committee, we have made leaps and bounds on that, and it shows in terms of our hires. Our hires have become more diverse than they have in a long time. Not good enough yet, right? But we are moving that direction, and we're pretty proud of the movement we've made. And now we're trying to look at other major places in the town where we can influence that, because we kind of use the police hiring as our testing ground. And we learned actually a very fun lesson. The town council and board of finance actually, and our first selectman who spearheaded it, gave us a nice bit of money to spend on trying to expand the pool and reach out there. And we spent a lot of money, and we learned that actually the money we didn't have to spend just by our connections and working through different groups was actually better for our expanding the diversity of the pool than the money we spent. We tons of people promise you all sorts of things if you pay them to do it, and we've learned that some of these vendors aren't as effective. So it actually helped us, by process of elimination. Now we know it's more important to make sure you have the right, you're talking to the right people, not paying the right people when you're in terms of going after diversifying the pool. So we also do benefits in the town. So we are in charge of all the health benefits for the town, which is, if you know, I don't know if anybody knows anything about that, but it is a very stress-inducing part of the job because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. Just like everybody else, costs are going through the roof, and it's our job to do our best to try to contain it, to do our best so that the taxpayers don't get hit, and that's getting harder and harder every single year. And particularly this year, it's very hard. So we're trying to do new innovative things there, and we are with the state partnership plan, and we're lucky to be with the state partnership plan. That means we are included with all of the state employees in our health care insurance. And what that does is that allows us to have a very large group of people to try to hold costs down. But even with that, costs are going through the roof this year. So, and next year, that is unfortunately not caused by anything we are doing here. A lot of it's caused by what people are, decisions that are being made down in our capital, in DC. So I also handle all of, if there's disciplinary issues, things like that with employees, that would be my responsibility as well. So we do that, and that's the least fun part of the job. And luckily, we have a very good staff of employees here in the town, and so that is a rarity. But it does happen, and so that's what I do. So I like to say people I hire, but I also fire. In the bigger cities, I did a lot more of the firing than I do here, but unfortunately, I have to do a little bit here too. So that is kind of the overall idea of what I'm doing on a daily basis. Bill Chin will tell you that I am in meetings all day, every day. People like to talk to me about a lot of things. So everybody want to ask questions about that, or do you want me to move on to the training?
Let me ask a question about that. And
Sure.
if others have questions as well, maybe we'll take a little opportunity and then we'll switch to the training. In particular, by the way, thank you. I'm curious to understand, and forgive my ignorance, when you talk about all and everybody. I'm familiar with the fact that our budgeting process sort of treats the teachers separately. Are the teachers within your domain, or is that separate for you as well?
No, I should have said that. Sorry. So and I've worked in places in Bridgeport. I did all the non-certified, so like non-teachers. I was in charge of them as well as everybody on the city side in Bridgeport. In New Haven, it was similar. In here, we have a wall of separation between the Board of Ed and the town. The only thing I'm in charge of for the Board of Ed, but it's pretty big, is I run the workers' comp for the Board of Education. Actually, Maria and I, the finance director, Maria Pires, we together work as a team on it. We kind of, she takes care of the, as you could probably imagine, the spending the money part of it, and I do the managing the actual workers' comp and the employees part of it. So that we handle the day-to-day operation of that. We work with Karma, which is part of CCM. They're an outside vendor, and but yeah, that's a significant part of what I do for the board. Other than that, the board and I, we work together well in terms of just conversations and helping each other out when we need help. But I don't have a formal role with the rest of it.
Got it. Anybody else have any questions for Tom on what he said so far before we invite him to share a little bit about the training experience?
I do. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about, you said some lessons learned through the recruitment process in diversifying the pool that you're hoping, I think, to bring to bear in some other processes. Can you
Sure.
just talk a little bit about that? Like, what are some of the things you all have done and learned in terms of diversifying the pool?
Well, the first major lesson was, I mean, if you're an HR director, and I'm sure in all of your fields you get what this is, you get bombarded with everyone in the universe, every vendor on earth trying to sell you, get phone calls and emails every single day trying to sell me. We can do this, we can do that. And one of our vendors that we currently have, I don't want to drag anybody through the streets here, but one of our vendors was someone we used, and so we said, "Hey, they have a program here that promises us to get in front of many, many more eyeballs than what I'm able to do, right?" And so we worked with them. We created a program with them, and we gave them money, and it was one of these things that we paid for eyeballs. So the more eyeballs, the more we paid with a cap. So we didn't go over our number. And we got eyeballs. We just didn't get candidates. And we could show that we got plenty of eyeballs. So what the main lesson we learned from that is, well, first of all, money doesn't necessarily equal success, right? But really it's not about eyeballs, it's about the right eyeballs, right? You kind of have to find people, police, good example, people that have an interest in that field, right? And there's various ways you can find them. Like for instance, our state senator Sujata Gadkar Wilcox, she does, she works for Quinnipiac, right? And there's a criminal justice program there. And so right away, there's a world of people. If you're in criminal justice, your likelihood of wanting to be a police officer goes up there, right? And by the way, has a diverse population there. And so, hey, that's a good place to start. That kind of stuff is what we learned is that we'd be smarter about it. What we also learned is having a police officer, or someone in this is police now based, but having a police officer with a uniform go places to job fairs is vastly different with outcomes than sending me or Steve, because we are just regular Joes that have never worn a uniform and can't talk personally about it. We send somebody in a uniform, particularly someone who is of a Durst background, right, to a job fair like we went to Housatonic, right, and people will come up to them and say, "Hey, how is it? What's it like? What are you gonna do?" Things that I'm kind of saying almost from a making it up point of view because of what I've seen, but someone who can speak from it. And we learned that step one, and then step two, this was extremely important. We had an officer that would follow up with every person that they talked to and have a personal conversation about, hey, what is your interest? You want to come in? You want to see the place? Come on in. We'll hang out. We'll get a coffee. You know what I mean? I want you to see the building. I want you to, to break down the fear of walking into a police station. Okay. And then number three, during the process, once they apply, that same officer emails you, hey, did you make sure you got your paperwork in? Puts a phone call in and says, hey, in that first personal, you have to when you come to take a test, you have to give us a personal history report, which is thick and difficult, right? And this is the stupidest little thing, but it is, if you're amazed how important this is, we have 5 spots where it has to be notarized. 5 spots. If you don't hit 5 spots, we can't accept you, right? And so he calls and says, the first spot is on page 1. The second spot's on page 3. You know what I mean? That little bit is tremendously helpful in terms of our numbers of qualified people that have taken the exam and come in for the interview is grown tremendously based on that. We still have work to do in terms of getting people through the process. I'm gonna be very honest with you. The back end of the process, background checks, things like that, we still have some issues with that. But getting the pool larger, especially for police, those steps have been unbelievably helpful. And we've started to take a little bit of that into our side. Like Steve sends emails regularly to each. If you applied for a job in Trumbull, it doesn't matter what the job is. You're going to get an initial email from Steve. You're going to get a reminder of when the test is. You're going to get a second reminder. That's going to be natural. We actually have it built into the system now. And that stuff we have learned. Oh my! Simple things like that are so much more valuable than some of the money we were paying for. You know what I mean? For people, it actually is some simple stuff, but basic but important. Sorry if I rambled too much on that one.
No, that was very helpful. Thank you.
I have a related question, and yes, thank you for all that information. You
Hmm.
mentioned that kind of given some of these updates and changes to practice, that town employees are more diverse than they have ever been. Do you have like concrete numbers that you can share, like with what percentile, what percent change has happened in that regard?
So, I want to be very clear, and this is not, I just want to be clear. I didn't say that we've been more diverse than we've ever been. I don't know if that's a correct statement. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I will tell you that we've advanced in terms of particularly the police department. Let me tell you, the funny thing is that we examine this and look at this all the time. The place, the most diverse place in the town is actually employee wise is actually the police department. And it actually has been from when I've been here. We have done a better job of making sure that we're continuing on that path with the police department. I would say that I don't believe, and I'm just being honest with the committee, that we have been as successful in the in on the town side. A couple reasons. With one major exception, by the way. If you're counting, and I don't, this is not meant to be any statement more than just, if you're counting female employees, right? Absolutely, we are unbelievably successful in hiring female employees. Employees of color, we are not as good. We just really aren't. And we found that so Steve and I both come from big cities. In big cities, this is you know, the pools are pretty good there, right? And people are more comfortable working in a big city, right? If you come from the big city. And so our population doesn't lend itself the same way in Trumbull. So part of our job has been trying to get in front of, as I said, other eyeballs in places. We want Trumbull people. And we know there's diversity in Trumbull, but it's a numbers game, and so you have to build the pool up. So we have started to try to do a better job of getting in front of diverse eyeballs for regular jobs. There's there just is something. It's difficult. The transfers, transfers have been more successful for us. People that are coming from another place, like kind of quote unquote stealing, employees from like Bridgeport or surrounding towns. That actually has been a more successful path for us than just the general kind of, putting out to the world to hire. So I don't. So I say that to say that I mean, I am not satisfied with where we are. We have great employees. We don't have enough openings really for us to have great data on this, right? That's why we focused on police up front because we do a lot of hiring in police, right? There's more of them. They rotate out regularly, you know what I mean? And so we have been focused on the data there and taking our lessons because we may not hire in some departments for years, right? Public
Mhm.
Works we hire fairly regularly, but Public Works is, since I have been here, I don't think a female has applied for a job in Public Works yet. Although we certainly try, but we haven't had one yet, as far as I'm aware, right? And that's the kind of thing you're working with. And listen, I'm trying, and I'm not greatly successful, but we definitely are trying.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I think this might just be me, but you mentioned um, that this is a civil service employer.
Mhm.
And forgive me if I don't have the language quite right. And I think I understood that because of that, there have historically been some challenges with diverse candidates, and that is why you are taking these additional steps to get more eyeballs on it. I think is
Yep.
the word you're using. So can you just? I'm having a hard time with why civil service employer equals difficulty getting diverse candidates and therefore needing to take these steps. And so forgive me if you said that, but if you
No,
could just share that.
absolutely. Civil service is, if you don't do civil service, it's hard to know what civil service is, right? And I kind of take it for granted, so I apologize. So if Tammany Hall, the whole world of you had to know somebody to get a job. That's why civil service was put in to stop political favoritism in terms of jobs, right? And nepotism. And so what civil service, it is designed to remove um, the ability to subjectively influence the hiring process. That's to take away favoritism, to take away the politicization of it. And so what happens is that it's a strict testing type program. And so that doesn't, when I say strict, it doesn't necessarily mean a test doesn't necessarily mean you sit down and fill in a bubble, right? But it can mean that, right, in the world. So every position that we test that is a civil service covered position, the exceptions being, like I'm not civil service. It's funny, I run civil service, but I'm an appointed position. So Vicky Tesoro can say to me, I want you here today, but I don't want you tomorrow. She could fire me tomorrow morning, and that's the end of it. I have no protections under civil service, right? So by the way, that encouraged me to do a very good job. But so everybody, I mean, if you're under civil service, what happens is that we have to put a test together. So every job that comes up, we sit in the office and we say, like, for instance, if you're an admin, we have administrator 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, right? We say to ourselves, you're an admin 1. Okay, what does an admin 1 do? We look at the job description, and computer skills. So do you have to know Word? What level of Word, Microsoft Word do you have to know? Do you have to know Microsoft Outlook? Do you have to know Excel, right? And what level of Excel? And we pay money for a system to do testing. So we will say, we'll check, people apply, 10 people apply for the job. We will find, time for 10 people to come in to sit at the computer and take a test on Word and Excel and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And that will generate, it's an objective test, right? And that will generate a number. And we put that number together, and that is part of the test. It could be 100% of the test, or it can be, many times we do a percentage of a skills test like that, and then we add a percentage of an interview or a background. Meaning, my background, I'm meaning Steve or I will go through, in my office, we'll go through someone's resume and or application, and literally, it's not I like what they did or don't like what they did. We will have created a paradigm beforehand to say, hey, listen, we'll give you 5 points for every 5 years of experience you have as an admin, right? And so if someone has 10 years, we give them, double the points, right? It's very objective, and we put scores together, we match them up, and whoever is the top, and whoever isn't, we put a list together, we bring it to the Civil Service Commission, and they say they approve the list. And generally, unless there's an exception made, the top 5 candidates get sent to the department. The department can actually choose anybody in that top 5. They can choose number 5 if they want. They can interview. They really are available to do whatever process they want to do. They can give another test if they want. Sometimes they do a more specific test. Like, for instance, in the health department, when we were hiring the admin there, they wanted to do a separate test when they got there about understanding billing terms and how to bill for medical, because that's what that job does. And so we brought the top candidates at 5 in, and they took another test, which rejiggered the lineup, right? But still, 1 through 5, they can choose anybody they want from 1 through 5. But I can't. I have to be very strict in terms of the 5 that I give them, right? And one of the keys is once I give them the 5, they must choose from those 5, unless they can legitimately disqualify. And I'm telling you, disqualification in civil service is very difficult. What I mean by disqualify is the person lied on their application, something like that. It doesn't mean I don't like them or they're good. They have to choose from those 5 people. They don't have a choice.
That is super helpful. Yeah, thank you so much. That I can make sort of connections to my field to sort of understand. So
Right.
that's really helpful.
But do you see how that would remove my ability to
sure.
influence
Absolutely.
things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
absolutely.
counting numbers. That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. That makes total sense. Thank you for that explanation. And then my last question. Oh Lord, it just escaped me. My mind is at 8 o'clock at night or whatever time it is. Maybe it'll come back to me. I'll mute and see if it comes back.
Why don't we let Tom talk about the recent training, and Shala will give you one more shot when he's done with that.
Yeah, whatever you want. So we had the bias training. So we had many, as you all know, we had many conversations about this. It took a very long time for us to try to lock it in. And for that, I apologize. I was responsible for a large part of that. Um, but we finally, with conversations with some of you folks and with Vicky and others, I mean, I kind of felt it was important that we give it a kind of a test run with the senior staff. So I took the cabinet members. We have a regular weekly cabinet meeting with Vicky that are the senior staff. I expanded it a little bit because I wanted to have a few more folks in it, like the head librarian folks. Bill Chin was one of the people that was added to it. I felt I wanted a few more folks that weren't just the same folks in the cabinet all the time. And what I told everybody was, we're going to go through the training. It's mandatory, but not only are we going to do the training, I want people to be paying attention and critiquing it. And I want you to tell me whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, what you really thought about it. And then afterwards, whether you think this would be good with other populations of employees in the town. And so we did the training, and David and Mike were fantastic. I mean, they really were fantastic. You can tell why people like this program. We actually, I mean, this is weird to say, we had a good time. Um, we laughed a lot. We got down to it. We really, I mean, people shared stuff. It was a very good training. I think without exception, everybody who was in the training thought it was a good training. And in their feedback, which I'm, by the way, I just haven't had a chance to. I'm going to put together, I'm going to send you guys the feedback. I'm going to send it to that David and Mike. I just really haven't had a chance to do that, and I apologize. But everybody has given me feedback that was in the training. And I will say the one thing the two things I heard back that were, I don't know if negative is the right word for it, but things for improvement. The first one was that they clearly give this training to people in an academic setting all the time. So that like students and other folks like that, and I guess they train professors and lecturers and stuff. We kind of are in a different world a bit, and I think like some of the examples, they kind of strained a little bit with some of the examples to connect with us a little bit. We all got through that because we have a number of type A personalities in our world, and so we all worked through that very well. And it turned out, I don't think it had a dragging effect at all on the training, but it was something that, like, if we expand it to other folks in the town, I'm not sure there'll be as many type A's as were in our world, right? That kind of said, well, don't you mean like this example? We kind of put ourselves into it. That was the first one. And what was oh geez, now Charlotte, now you've done it to me. I had something in my brain that was the second. What was the second? um it was one. Oh, I can't think of what the second one was now. I'm sure it was really good though. But overall, the training was great. Oh, I know what the second thing was, the suggestion. I think most people who gave me feedback did not think that this would be a great program to use for people that are lower in the chain in the town. They thought the supervisory level it's very good for. It might be good for some the library type folks. Maybe some folks that are doing customer service might be very helpful for. I'm not positive. This is what I'm interpreting, that they folks didn't think it would be great for like maybe the DPW regular folk because it involves a lot of speaking and talking and participating. It's a very hands-on type of training. Like you can't sit back. There's no sitting back in this training. Or the training doesn't work. You know what I mean? And that's I think where people's brains were. I tend to agree with that a little bit, but I'm going to test it again. The plan is to expand this and do the larger department head world. So not so there are people that weren't in the room that are department heads and main supervisors. And so my plan is right now, I haven't done anything to put this together at this point, to be honest with you, but my plan is to expand it to the department heads and see how that goes. And I probably would sit in on that, not as a participant, just to watch it and see how it goes. And if that goes well, maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe then the customer service level might be the level after that, right? And so that's kind of where my brain is on this one. And I'm willing to hear anything you guys have to say about that, your opinions on that. But that was kind of the consensus of the rest of the folks who took the training.
So thank you, Tom. I guess I'll ask a couple of questions and then open it up to others. Uh, First, can you, I'm not sure to what extent what they did with you is confidential versus not confidential. I won't ask you to repeat, what Vicky said in response to X or any other cabinet member said in response to Y, but can you describe at all substantively the content for our benefit and the benefit of the public?
Yeah, I think I do have to be a little bit careful because it is their like it's their they have ownership of this training, right? What I would this is what I would say is that they create they walk you in by talking you they create a different way of thinking about diversity and bias and traits that are permanent versus traits things that are not permanent that we make judgments on. And I think this is a tremendously disserviced oversimplification, but that you if a trait is something that is permanent, we shouldn't be discriminating, and they don't use the word discriminating, we shouldn't be making determinations based on about people based on that. You can make determinations based on things that are choices. And I mean, Bill Chin, if you're listening, give me a nod or if you think I'm on the button here. Yeah, I think that's a very general and terrible oversimplification of what they did. But they teach you're into it a little bit before you get what their thinking is. They want your thinking out first, and then they say, okay, how about if we think about it like this? And then they break it down, and you have questions and ways to ask yourself when you're making judgments about people. And it creates a different pathway in your brain instead of going straight forward like we always do. Sometimes you should take a right hand turn and say, oh, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Why am I making a judgment on something that someone doesn't have a choice on, right? And by the way, and not just, the simple things we think about like skin color and things like that. All sorts of things we talked about in terms of judgments that we're making. Short people, tall people, but you know what I mean? People with good vision, bad vision, people, but whatever it is, where you're born in the world, things you have no choice about, right? And it really creates a different way to think about things. I thought it was very impactful to the people in the room the way they did it.
Okay. And my second question, I appreciate all of what you've said and your feedback and your enthusiasm and the interest you've expressed in rolling it out to department heads and considering others. While we're talking about type A personalities and people who might lean in, do you have any thoughts about whether, I know that this is not an infinite resource, the good folks who did this are not going to come spend their lives in Trumbull, but whether this would be something that would be of interest to and might be provided to some of the political parts of the town. So whether the town council, the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, Edit, what are your thoughts about whether this is a program that might be appropriate for folks in some of those capacities?
So I have survived in government for a long time by not stepping into traps, right? And so this is my answer will tell you, I don't take offense at the answer. That's really above my pay grade, but I would say this. Um, it's a helpful program. I think it could help a lot of different people. And I think anybody that deals with the public would gain from this type of training. whether it would be good for the politicians or not, that somebody else should make that call, right? I don't want to be the guy saying, you should be taken. That's not me. I'm in charge of employees. So, but I would say it is a helpful training.
A very diplomatic answer, sir. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any other
25
questions?
years of doing this, John.
Anybody have any other questions for Tom before we thank him and let him go? All right, seeing none. Tom, I'll give you the same invitation I've given others who have come to spend a little bit of time with us. We don't have too much left on our agenda. My guess is only another 5-10 minutes at most. You're welcome to stick around. You're also welcome, with our thanks, to go relax and recover from the whatever bug has got you.
I have been on Zoom since 9 o'clock this morning, so I would greatly appreciate to not be on Zoom anymore. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity here. I am and I really mean this, I am always available if you want to send me an email. Some folks on this will realize it takes some time for me to get back sometimes to the emails. But if you have a question or anything, you feel free to call. If you want to come in and see me, you want to talk about anything, I'm always available. So just let me know, okay?
Thank you, Tom. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. And have a great night.
Too.
All right. I'll move us on in our agenda. We're up to old business. Very briefly, the book club event remains scheduled for February 2nd, 2026 at the library at 6 p.m. The book, as you all know, that we've selected to discuss is Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew. You may recall that there was some kerfuffle that we discussed at our last meeting. I have seen nothing since. I've heard nothing since. There's been nothing that's come into the edit box, as you all know. I'm not aware of anybody reaching out to any member of edit or, for that matter, complaining to the library. And so I look forward to that discussion on February 2nd. And I hope that those who are interested of all vantage points will come and share their views with us on that occasion. Any other comment on that before I move on? Seeing none. Just a very brief update on invitations to future meetings. Those of you who are astute will recall that we had invited or intended to invite Chief Lombardo to this meeting. The timing of my invitation was poor and coincided with his vacation. And so in order to try to make sure that we filled the slot for this meeting, I pivoted, and I think we were very fortunate to have, I think, a very productive conversation with Tom. I'm very glad he was able to join us. Chief Lombardo has indicated he is available to join us at our February meeting. And so I expect that will happen. As previously reported, Rena Bacalar has indicated availability for March. I need to circle back with her and lock it down, but I think we're good for February and March. And I will try to pursue additional invitations, reminders, and touch points with others. The only other meeting that's scheduled, which is not with our committee as a whole, but as a reminder, Shala and I are meeting with First Selectman Tesoro on the 13th in the morning, at which point not only do I hope that we will be able to talk with her about joining us for one of our meetings, but the top agenda item is talking about that survey that we all worked on in the hope of getting feedback and support. So that's where we are in terms of all of that. Again, I'll pause and see if there are any questions or comments.
I just have one question, John. And forgive me if I missed this, but I think last time we had taken that brief look at the data from the school system. And there was, I think, a conversation about it not necessarily being important for us to talk more about it, but to invite Dr. Summa. And I don't know if there was any follow-up and outreach to him in that regard.
So your memory is consistent with mine that we tabled that for discussion with the ed department when Dr. Summa comes to see us. And the answer to your question is no, he's on my list of things to do to try to see if he would be willing to join us for a meeting sometime after the February and March meetings that I've described.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's I think what Michelle sent us via email is potentially a great way for like all three of our entities to come together to try to support that work. And so, I don't know what contact she has with him directly or not, but it seems like a nice way to hopefully get that to happen as well as to link in that piece.
Any further discussion on that? Okay. Next item on our agenda is new business. There is no new business that has been identified. Is there anybody who has something on their mind for our discussion? All right. I guess I'll end where I started. Happy New Year, everybody. And I'll invite a motion.
I
Motion
move
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
All right. We'll call that a tie, but I heard Rick
I
slightly
second.
first. So, all right. Rick will be the second. Shala's the motion. And all in favor?